Our bodies are so incredibly resilient. So, we don't realize how powerful our bodies are.
Well, Shira Aguirre, I am so happy to have you here on Staying Ageless. I'm like really excited to see you again, honestly, really. Um,
Same here.
but now we get to talk about your book, and all the stuff that surrounds your book, Joyful, Delicious Vegan, which makes me want to eat something.
Yes.
Um, so can we let's start with tell us a little bit about your health journey that led to the writing of this book in the first place.
Sure. Happy to do that. And thank you so much for having me, first of
Of
all.
course. Of
And
course.
well, the title, and we were chatting a little bit before, the title, Joyful, Delicious Vegan, Life Without Heart Disease, was not the original title idea, but I'm glad that's where it landed because that's exactly kind of explains my health journey and how the end result has been, good health that at one point I didn't believe because of my family history I could achieve.
Wow. Wow, that's awesome. That is awesome. So, what did you have any sort of crisis moments that made you transform your lifestyle? Was your lifestyle always great?
No, I live in Texas, and that is a very cattle, beef, meat eating, environment. And actually, my journey started when I was in my early 30s. Actually, when I was turning 30, I
Mm.
was kind of freaking out. I'm turning 30. Oh my God! And but I noticed that after my typical fast food lunch,
Mhm.
burgers and fries, fried chicken, it's popular down here,
Mhm.
pizza, whatever it was,
Mhm.
that my energy would just flatline about
Mm.
mid-afternoon. I mean, I would have no energy. I went back to work. I'd have to drag myself through the afternoon. And I just started to pay attention to what I ate and how I felt afterwards. And I started little by little to eliminate the things that I knew were not good for me, like the greasy fried foods.
Yeah.
First thing I eliminated, Asosa, was donuts. I used to love donuts, and I mean, what? So I
Oh
eliminated
my
those,
goodness.
and then I, eliminated the rest of the fried foods. So just little by little, actually over a period of 20 years, I
Wow.
yeah, I ate mostly vegetarian,
Wow.
but I still ate fish and dairy and eggs.
Okay.
Um, and then in my 50s, my blood pressure started to creep up, just like,
Wow.
my parents, my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, and even my generation, of cousins
Mm.
had started to experience the same thing. And I'm thinking, hey, what's up with this? Like, I've been eating, better than most people I know, and
Mhm.
I'm active. I really never had a weight problem, but my blood
Mhm.
pressure started going up. And so I eventually had to go on blood pressure medication, but
Mhm.
I was actually depressed the day I went to fill the prescription
Oh, yeah.
because I felt like I thought I was doing enough, but yet that's where I ended up.
Okay.
And so shortly after I started the medication, there were two incidents that really kind of brought me back to the realization that I had to continue my journey, my health journey. I had to do more. I just could not simply rely on the medications. I had to have them, obviously. Um, so the first one is that I was in my garden, in the yard, doing some yard work in the evening. I got up quickly and felt I was about to faint. Uh,
Wow.
and that had not happened before, so I didn't really know if it was the medication. I didn't know what it was. But the real showstopper for me was an afternoon. I decided to take a friend, an elderly friend, actually to lunch. It
Mhm.
was around 1 o'clock, and we got on the freeway. The restaurant was only 15 minutes from our house. we were laughing, we were talking, having a good time, and all of a sudden, I just felt like I was fading,
Oh my goodness.
and I felt like I was going to black out and on the
Mhm.
freeway. So I was trying my best to hide my absolute terror from her because I didn't
Right.
want to scare her.
Right.
And all I could think to do was just to make it off the freeway. So
Yeah.
I just slowly, changed lanes till I got to the nearest exit.
Okay.
As soon as I got on the surface road, the feeling just vanished, just like it had never happened. I mean, it was just gone. And so I was shaken, but I was not about to get back on the freeway. So we went on to lunch. We were only a couple of blocks from the restaurant, had a
Okay.
nice lunch. But afterwards, I was still shaking because I thought about what could have happened, not just to me, but to her.
Right. Right.
So from that moment on, I said, you know what? I've got to do more.
So what did the more look like? Like, what do
So
you
what
mean?
the more looked like, actually, it was really a lucky thing that I got referred to actually a Black cardiologist who happened to be vegan and actually raw
Yes.
vegan.
Yes. Are you
Yes,
talking
and
about Dr. Montgomery, my friend?
your friend Dr. Baxter, I call him Dr. B.
Dr. B.
Yes. And so that was really great because, and I resisted initially giving up my fish. That was the one thing, and my cheese. Everybody likes cheese,
Mm,
right? And,
everybody.
but I knew I had to do it. So I just started down the path. I actually did raw for about a year.
Okay.
And that gave my palate, I think, an opportunity to reset in a more
Mm,
profound way.
mm,
It really made a difference in my health. It didn't get me where I wanted to be initially. My journey was slow and long because what I learned is that even though my blood pressure readings improved, they weren't
mhm,
consistent. And it took me a while to figure out why. And the
mm.
why of that is I had to start paying attention. A theme in my book is really listening to my body and
Yes.
encouraging all of us to do that.
Yes.
What was happening was I was eating too much fat. I got in the habit of eating nuts for snacks all day long. So when I realized it, I was probably getting 50% of my calories from fat. It was healthy fat. It was almonds, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, whatever. But it was too much.
Yes.
It was just
Yeah.
too much. So too much of a good thing is too much of a good thing.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
once I realized that and I, started paying more attention to how much of those things I was eating, I still eat them, but in moderation and try to keep the fat to about 10 to 15% of like what I consume.
Okay.
And so that
Okay.
meant that I just really started eating a lot more other stuff, a lot more fruit,
Yeah.
a lot more vegetables, a lot more whatever, to kind of balance grains, legumes, everything.
Love it. I really like what you said about paying attention because I talk about this all the time. Like, I'm so sensitive that, like, if I notice anything, a little pain or whatever, I'm like, what's that about? Was that from my workout? What's the, I
Right.
think that the average person is kind of like numb. It's like you're walking around the world and you're not allowing yourself to really feel the stress that's coming on your body, feel any aches and pains, understand what happened after you ate that meal. It's like we're kind of on this autopilot where we're just
Yeah.
eating and moving, and then one day we crash and burn,
Right.
and then we go, how did that happen?
That's exactly right. And as you know, I talk about mindful eating.
Yes.
And mindful eating is just a part of mindful living. And that's
Yes.
something that so many of us don't allow ourselves to do because we're kind of, rushing from one event to the next. It's to work,
Yes.
rush back home, rush to work, get through the
Yeah.
day, rush back home. Then
Yeah.
you've got the kids, you've got other responsibilities. So it's not easy, but it
Yeah.
is possible. And it is so rewarding to eat and live mindfully.
I love your story too because it's not like I did this and then overnight. It was like a very gradual
Mhm.
lifestyle change process. And you also were over the age of 30,
Mhm.
then you hit 50. So it's like you can start at any time, people.
Our bodies are so incredibly resilient, associated.
Mm,
We don't realize how powerful our bodies are.
hmm.
There is a story that I tell that was another really pivotal moment for me in my journey.
Mhm.
And this was about 12 years ago now. My mom had passed. So my mom
Mm,
had passed a few months earlier. I was facing burnout at work. Um, so I just decided to go to this little health spa, and it was in the desert, in California. It was not a fancy place,
yeah.
but I just went. But there I met a woman who really changed the way I looked at my own health, and I will never forget it. And it still guides and inspires me today. Her
Mm,
name was Susanna Boleyn. She ran this little spa, and she did a class. And she told us, she says, "I'm going to tell you a story." And she says, "I want you to picture the trillions of cells in your body,
hmm.
and these little cells have no other purpose than to try to keep you healthy. And they do this from the moment of conception all
Yes.
the way through your life."
Yes.
But we don't think about them. We don't understand how they do what they do. But their intelligence, their functional intelligence, is what keeps us going, even when we don't make good choices.
Yes.
And so that story, and she described this as unconditional love. And it touched me in a way, I think, because of, the point I was at with kind of my own crises of like, what do I do next? Missing my mom, just
Mm,
a lot of pressure.
mhm.
When I got back to my little cabin that night, I just cried. I cried and cried.
Mm,
Probably, it seemed like forever. It was probably 20 minutes, but but I could picture. I mean, I just could picture the scene that she painted for what is happening within our bodies that we don't pay attention to. And when our bodies try to tell us that something's wrong, a little ache, a little pain, all we want to do is silence it. We just
yeah.
want to take something over the counter so we can keep on doing
Yeah.
whatever it is we think that's more important. And
Yes.
in fact, what could be more important, because if we don't take care of our bodies, where do we live, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And it's the seat of our intuition. It's there's so many important things. Huh. Yeah, no, I really so I think it's interesting that you did the raw thing with Dr. B. Um what would you say, cuz you talk about breaking food addictions and getting over cravings. Did you feel like you didn't really break your addictions until you did that full year of raw? Like what's your philosophy behind breaking
Well, you know
addiction?
what? I fortunately I've never had an addiction, but I definitely had cravings,
Okay.
and I definitely loved sugar too much.
Yeah. Well, I'll join the club. Like,
So definitely cravings, and cravings are tough. Cravings are tough. Um, of course, with addictions, people need support for that, professional support. With cravings, we need support for that too. But my cravings were such that I had boundaries. So I
mm,
would go so far, and then I'd realize, no, I better step back.
mm,
Um, so basically around sugar, and then I got into trouble, as I said, with too much fat.
mm.
Because I love the nuts and
Were
the
you replacing things? Like, okay, I'm gonna find a vegan cake instead of doing this, or were you just
yes, and yeah, I got into that. And not, as and many people know, not everything vegan is healthy. I mean, French fries are vegan,
say
right?
that again? Because that some people need to hear that. Not everything healthy.
No, 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 no. And I think that listening to your body and getting back to that is really what's critical, because when you're younger, you can get away with more.
Yeah,
When people talk about things like the Beyond Burgers and the Impossible Burgers. I mean, I would not eat those, but I don't really pan them for people who are looking for a transition,
yes,
and I think they can be helpful. But as we age, we have to really change our maintenance program and change
yes.
what we eat. Yeah.
No, for sure. I mean, I've had a lot of clients. I don't really. I'm not a fan of those a lot of those fake things only because I've seen the gastrointestinal issues that people have after they eat them, and I'm like, yeah, stop eating that, you know? So, I mean, if it works for you and it doesn't give you any of those issues and
Right.
you're transitioning, sure, but then I guess the end goal really should be whole foods where you're, like, trying to move more.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
But the incredible thing is that our bodies, those little cells, they will try to the very end to keep us going until we wake up.
It's so true. It
Yeah,
is so true. So I love also that your story illustrates that you can decide I am not going to live into my family's health history,
right.
basically. Can you talk a little bit about heart disease and how it impacts African American women? And then, I guess how you dealt with the family
The
issues.
family history, yes.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, heart disease is the number one killer of all, people in the U.S. and actually worldwide.
Mm,
It's the number one killer. Of course, communities of color and Black communities, brown communities here, Native Americans are really hard hit. Um, so for Black women, we are twice as likely to have a stroke as white women.
oh my goodness.
We die earlier than most other ethnicities. And we're 60% more likely to have other issues compounding, the high blood pressure or compounding the
Yeah.
stroke or the diabetes. So um, it's really important for us to do better self care as a matter of survival and resilience and being able to recreate those same family histories, all that great food that we love. We do not have to give up the taste. We do not have to give up the flavor. I would never do that. I would never ask
Right.
anybody to do it because I'm not going to do it.
Right.
All we have to do is tweak them. It's time for us to, I think, kind of recreate our food culture, keeping what's essential. What's essential
Yeah.
is the flavor, the taste, the love that goes into it, the ingredients. Uh,
Yeah.
Most food is plant based anyway. And so
Totally.
all we have to do is just find ways to make them taste just as good or better, because there's some things now that I like better than the original. And one is cornbread. And I grew up in Texas
Mm.
and we love our cornbread.
Yes, y'all do.
It took a while, but I found, and the recipe's in my book.
Okay,
It's
awesome.
called Clara's Cornbread. It's named after my granddaughter, one of them.
Aw.
And it took me a while, and but eventually, and I had to work with a chef because, quite frankly, I never liked to cook before
Mhm.
before this stage of my health journey. I didn't like it. It was work. I had a business. I was busy, just kind of like what we talked about, just doing what I thought was more important.
Right.
But now I love it. And so some of the
Hmm.
recipes I really enjoyed. I'm not a chef by any means,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm someone now who loves being in the kitchen. And I now find it so creative because I'm always looking for that next little thing to make something even better.
I love that, and it's really important. So learning to cook, I feel like it's like cooking is an active participation in your daily nourishment. And so when you're not actively participating, you're literally just the recipient of whatever's out there.
That is correct.
So it's like
That is
taking
so well
charge.
said. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
really well said. That is so true.
Because I feel like, I have a lot of, I remember when I was working in the wellness clinic and it was like, a lot of people and it's like, do you eat vegetables? And they're like, sometimes in a can, you know what I mean?
Right, right.
So it's like just actually exploring the flavors, the textures, and then it's also an important question to ask yourself, why don't you have time to cook?
Hmm.
I mean, there are like legitimate reasons to be busy and whatever. And the good news is that our new world allows us, like, I can get my juices, delivered to my place.
Hmm.
I am definitely guilty of like indulging in conveniences, but still I think that just having some sort of active participation in it is
Right.
important to evolve into a lifestyle change, I think.
I think that is so true because we learn to appreciate whatever we focus on, its
Mhm.
influence in our lives grows.
Mhm.
It doesn't
Mhm.
matter what it is. If we
Mhm.
pay attention to it, we focus on it, it's going to expand.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
what better way to use, our time than something that will have such a big payback, not just for us, but our families, for
Yes.
our kids, for our communities. It's really important. And I think COVID has taught us just how important basic health is.
Yes.
Because part of the reason it was so devastating in Black and Brown communities and Native American communities here is we already were sick with
Yeah.
underlying conditions like heart disease or diabetes or obesity.
Mhm.
So it's just, I think we just have to start looking for a new normal that includes better and not just recreating or getting back to what we were doing, but
Mhm.
figuring out how we're going to make our lives more healthy, more joyful, more connected to the earth,
Yeah.
to real food, real plants,
Yes.
and making it real delicious.
Yes. Speaking of delicious, how do we reclaim the joy of eating? Like what is that about?
It's to me it has so many different layers, but I've always loved to eat. I
Me
mean,
too.
from the time, I was a kid, I just love to eat. And I
Yeah.
still love to eat. And what is joyful to me now is the fact that I don't have conflict about what I'm eating.
Ooh,
I'm
that's
not,
good.
yeah, I'm not worried about, how many calories does this have? I'm not worried about, is this going to raise my blood sugar? I'm not worried about this or that or the other, because at this point, um, eating a whole plant-based diet, plant-strong diet, those issues kind of take care of themselves as long as I eat whole foods,
Mhm.
vegetables, fruits,
Mhm.
beans, peas,
Mhm.
grains,
Mhm.
all that good stuff, spices,
Yeah.
herbs,
Yeah.
everything that gives food color and flavor and excitement. As long
Yeah.
as I do that and stay away from the packaged stuff, the processed
Yeah.
stuff on the shelf, and as long as I don't overdo with the oil or the salt or the sugar, that is pretty much the baseline for good health, period.
Mm.
And
Mm.
then you can kind of relax and you can find ways to enjoy what you're eating and make it as delicious as you want it to be. Because it's really the spices and the herbs and the food itself that are so colorful and beautiful and flavorful. We just have to work with that and
Yes.
remember how our ancestors did that.
Oh, I love that so much. So I would consider you an ageless superstar. So I have ageless
Oh my
superstars.
goodness.
Yes. Yes.
Coming from you, I am floored and overly grateful.
No, seriously. Wait, how old are you?
72.
See, for me, like you are like hashtag goals in the sense that it's like, sure, you went through a journey, but you've come to this place where you're eating in a way that is keeping you from being on medications. You're of sound body. You have a book out, child. You have a book. I mean, that for me is really what agelessness is about. People think I'm talking about other stuff sometimes, but I'm really talking about, are you energized? Are you in your right mind? Are
Right,
you off of medications? Are
right.
you eating in a way that's in alignment with your body? Are you working in your purpose? So for me, your hashtag ageless goals. So I want to know what a little bit about your routine, whatever you want to tell us, if you have any sort of like routines that you do.
I absolutely do. And my joy, a lot of my joy comes from the lifestyle in addition to the food. And that lifestyle, a typical day for me starts with meditation. So I've been meditating for 25 years or so.
Wow.
And it's the most important thing I do every morning for 30 minutes. Uh,
Wow. Okay.
So that's the first thing I do. I spend a little time after that because my creative juices flow after that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about all kinds of things after that I get excited about. I start thinking and planning my day. I do kind of some affirmations, and then I do yoga. I do yoga, and it's a combination of yoga, stretching, toning, but that's also about 30 minutes. So basically, the
Okay.
first hour to hour and a half, um, And I even did this when I had my business when I was traveling. I would
Yeah.
get up much earlier. Now I don't have to get up as early to
Okay.
do that.
Okay.
And I sold the business about 5 years ago. So that's the first part of the day. After that, I'm checking messages, doing whatever while I make and I eat really twice a day. And that's not something I recommend to people. It's just
Right.
works for me.
Okay.
I'm hungry when I wake up because I'm ready for my meditation, and you don't really eat and then meditate.
Right.
You
Right.
kind of want to do that when your body is still. And
Yes.
so for breakfast, I'll have a huge plate of fruit, fresh fruit, whatever's in season, whatever's in my fridge. It's usually, I love grapefruit. I love berries, strawberries, blackberries, cranberries, blueberries. I'll have apples, pears, mango. I mean, whatever's melon. I love melon.
Okay.
So whatever's in season, whatever's in my fridge, I make a huge plate of that.
Yeah.
And I like it to be beautiful. So I balance the colors. I'm kind of a little silly like that, So
That's fun.
I want it to look like a rainbow.
Yes.
And then I sprinkle chia seed over all of it because it makes it look
Nice.
prettier. And this is just kind of like how I have fun with it, but it's part of the joy. The
Yes.
visual, it's the flavors, but it's also the anticipation, of what I'm going to eat and how beautiful it looks.
Yeah.
I'll usually have some ground flaxseed and some pumpkin seed. With that, I'll eat a little bit of that. It helps balance out the sweetness of what I'm
Okay.
doing. And usually I'll add maybe a small bowl of granola at the end with a plant milk. So
Okay.
that's and on Sunday I make buckwheat pancakes. And that
Nice.
recipe is also in the book.
Oh, awesome. Woo. Love
I
it.
eat. I
Love
love
it.
eating. Eat a lot for dinner. It's the main course for me. Is what the standard American diet would consider just a throwaway side, which is the salad. But it's a
Hmm.
big, beautiful, colorful salad with all kinds of stuff in there. Everything
Wow.
from grains. I mean, every day it's different.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes I put fruit in it. I use different kinds of greens, all different kinds of greens. I belong to a CSA, a community supported agricultural urban farm. So I
Yes.
get fresh stuff every week and it's affordable. So the salad is just different every day, but it's filling. I mean, I could just eat the salad and it's huge.
Yeah.
But along with that, I'll have some beans and rice, some lentils and quinoa. I make vegetable stews, vegetable sautés, and I have some African dishes from Senegal that I learned while I was there. That the food there is so wonderful,
Yes.
and so I've tweaked, a couple of recipes. One is like a Senegalese gumbo,
That
and
sounds good.
the key is, and it tastes. Even my husband says that's not at all bad, because it has all the flavor. It just doesn't have the fish.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. They usually make a fish.
yeah, they make it with
Okay.
fish. So I don't have the fish, but it has all the other flavor. And there are ways. Sometimes I sprinkle a little kelp in there. Sometimes I use a little nori
So
to
I
give it a
saw Miss
seafood flavor.
Tabitha Brown make hearts of palms into fish fry.
I saw that too.
Did you see that?
I
Child,
did. I
I
did.
was like, that is creative. You
She
get
is
10 stars.
she is so creative. She's really creative. I wish I could cook like her.
Right.
But I'm developing my own little vibe, and I think everybody can do that because cooking
Yeah.
is really creative, and you can really
Yes.
tailor it to your taste, to what
Yes.
you like, and still have it be incredibly healthy.
I love this so much. So where can people find joyful, delicious vegan?
Life without heart disease. It is pretty much anywhere books are sold. Obviously everything's on Amazon. It's there, but you can also get it at local bookstores. It can be ordered online from them, or in person.
Okay.
Indie bookstores. I'm a big proponent of indie bookstores. So it's pretty much available wherever books are sold.
Awesome. And where can people find you online?
Okay, online, my website is www.sherraaguirre.com. On Instagram, it's at Sherra Aguirre. Twitter, it's also Sherra Aguirre. And Facebook is Sherra Aguirre author page.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was a great conversation. I
Thank
got a little
you. Thank
ageless
you.
inspiration too. So I feel like it was a good combo.
Great.